Going back to the bulk of the side that played France, with two exceptions, Gareth Davies and Corey Hill. Can you tell us about those two selections, please?
Thomas Williams picked up a calf injury last week at training, so he was ruled out on Monday, wasn't considered at all. With Corey, he's been doing a great job for us coming off the bench recently. And to be honest, our line probably hasn't gone as well as we would have liked in the first couple of games, so just bringing him in there for that experience and line-out calling, we just felt that was an important factor for this game.
Selection of Gareth Hanscom ahead of Dan Biggar, what does that say about how you want to play the game?
No, I just think it was really much of the fact that Gareth was here all last week during training. Dan was up in Northampton, he wasn't able to take a part in Monday and Tuesday's training session, so it was just a situation where we just felt with that continuity there and the fact that Gareth had more on-field training and preparation than Dan had had.
Warren, was Lee Halfpenny close to selection?
No, he wasn't.
Never? What were your thoughts there?
We feel he needs to get a game and probably for his club before we consider him.
Do you think in his absence, with Dan Biggar on the bench, there's maybe a bit more pressure on Gareth Hanscom as a goal kicker, particularly in this game?
Oh, there's always got pressure on goal kickers, particularly in big matches. And one of the things that Gareth has been working incredibly hard on has been his kicking game, out of hand, and he's made big strides with Neil Jenkins. And there's always pressure, and particularly at home in front of a full house, so it's not something we've spoken about. It's not an issue for us. Dan will definitely get time in that second half, and he has been doing a great job for us in terms of controlling the game when he has come off the bench in recent matches as well. And I know he wants to start, but we've given Gareth that opportunity for Saturday.
Do you know if Lee Halfpenny is playing for the Scarlets?
I'm not sure. No, we're going to look at players today, this afternoon, and release players, so not sure about that.
What have you made of Eddie Jones's pre-match hype of your side rather than his, talking about the greatest team ever and all that? Well, how do you react?
Well, the only quotes I can see about this being the greatest Welsh team ever has come from Eddie Jones. It hasn't come from anyone else. So I wouldn't be disrespectful enough to say that this was the greatest Welsh team ever. It's a long way off being the greatest Welsh team ever. So he's the one talking us up. I haven't seen anyone else in the press write that up either, so I think we're all pretty aware that yes, we're on a good run, and we've done well over the last 12 months, but let's not get ahead of ourselves, and we're just trying to keep our feet on the ground and just know that this is another game, a big game for us, but we're pretty excited about it.
How good is this England team, Warren?
To be fair, they've done pretty well, in terms of their opening two games, and I thought tactically they were very good against Ireland. Were very direct. They've kicked a lot in the first two games, as we've seen. They played 3 or 4 phases, and then they kick for grass or put the ball up in the air, and they've been getting a lot of success out of it. They're scoring a lot of tries from their kicking game. So our aerial game will have to be good. We're going to have to be prepared to play some territory as well if they're going to kick as much as they have in the first two games. And they've started extremely well in this competition. I don't think anyone knows where we are at the moment, except for ourselves, which is a nice place to be in. And we went great in the first half against France, and terrible weather conditions out in Paris, but we got ourselves back in the second half and got a win. And still question whether it was the right thing to do in terms of making 10 changes against Italy, but to make 10 changes and play Italy and Rome and get a victory when we were reasonably comfortable in the game. We were never going to lose the game. We didn't play that brilliantly, but we've trained exceptionally well in the last 2 weeks, and I don't think England know what team's going to turn up on Saturday, but we do.
Do you expect England to kick as much against you as they have against France and Ireland, given that they had non-specialist fullbacks, if you like, in Henshaw and Uge, but you've got Liam Williams, who's obviously a Lions.
I do expect them to kick as much, and the fact that Robbie hasn't played a lot there recently he has had a lot of his early rugby at 15, so that's why he would have been selected for that first game at fullback. I can't see them going away from that because they're getting success from it, so there's no need to change your format when it's working so well for you. So there's no doubt that they'll try and take us on at set piece time in terms of scrum and line out. They'll use their big runners off 9 and they will play a territory game and kick a lot. So, and we've just got to be able to cope with that and stay on the arm wrestle, not allow them, as in the first 2 games, they scored very early in those first 2 games, and it's important that they don't get off to a good start. And the big challenge for England, I think, is 5 of their forward packs the first time they've started in the Principality Stadium. So, I think that's going to be a new experience for 5 of their players. I think England are making a significant mistake by travelling tomorrow. Coming through Newport at about 5 o'clock is probably not the best thing to be doing. Going through the Bringlass tunnels, I mean, there's a good chance it could be tractors and buses and that there sort of holding them up. So, that's going to be an experience for them. So, but like I just said, we haven't spoken too much about them. It's been a focus on us the last 2 weeks. Trained exceptionally hard in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't seen this group of players this focused for a long time.
In the old days, Warren, England didn't used to come out of their team hotel in Cardiff until a couple of hours before kick-off. Do you think they've gone back to that? Bit fearful of being here?
Oh, I don't think so. That's not what the games are like. We've got players that have experienced being in Wales, and the great thing about coming to Cardiff is the atmosphere, and I think if there was any animosity in the past, I think that's all gone, and there's a huge amount of respect from the players, I think, for both teams. And I know that the experience with players on the Lions, that the Welsh boys and English boys really related well to each other, got on well, and they've got some fantastic individuals in that team, not just as players but as men. Some fantastic people that you'd go and have a drink with or a coffee with because they're just good people on that side. So it's going to be hard, it's going to be tough, it's going to be physical on Saturday, and I'm sure afterwards, once the game's finished, I've already had a text from John Mitchell and Eddie, and we said, well, looking forward to catching up after the game and having a drink and having a chat. So this is all fun and games now. It's all mind games for the next 48 hours, but afterwards and after the game, it's about catching up with some mates and enjoying the occasion, and hopefully it's a great game of rugby.
You said the challenge for them is that front 5. How much do you think they'll miss Mako when played?
Oh, I think he's a massive loss. I think he's the biggest loss for them in terms of his work rate, not just his set piece of scrummaging, but his carrying, his defence. But I think what they're going to miss most of all is his leadership. I don't think a lot of people realise, just from a team perspective, how vocal he is, how intuitive he is in terms of understanding the game. I was so impressed with him a couple of years ago on the Lions tour. I think he's a fantastic leader. He could easily captain England, and I think he's going to be a huge loss to them. That's I'm reasonably glad he's not playing, because I just got a huge amount of respect for him as a player and as an individual.
Third starting scrum half in 3 games. What sort of qualities are you hoping that Gareth Davis will bring to the fray? Well,
I think, like I said, we spoke about England's threat and their kicking game, and one of the things that Gareth has done well for us in recent games, I think, his defence is the biggest part of his defence, is line speed. We need to look to put Owen Farrell under as much pressure as we possibly can, and to drive our line speed and get off the line and negate their power plays and their power runners. And that's one thing that he's done really well for us. We're really happy with the 3 nines where they are at the moment. There's still work to do on their games, and they've got their own strengths and as individuals. But primarily we picked him because he has defended so well for us, and putting opposition team under pressure and giving us great line speed.
Hardy Perennial of a question. What's your preference on the roof?
Oh, no one's even said anything about the roof, so we'll just wait to hear from England and see what happens. So whether it's open or not, it won't bother us. I think the weather conditions are good, and You know, whatever will happen, it'll be, you know, great atmosphere in the stadium. So look, we haven't even spoken at all as coaches or as players about the roof, and we just have to wait and decide to see what England comes back. It is a bugbear of mine that you know, basically in the Six Nations, not the autumn or World Cups, where the roof is decided by us or closed. As a matter of fact, you know, I find it ironic that it's our stadium and we can't decide what we do with it. If it was me, I'd be going to the Six Nations and banging my fists on the table and saying, you know, this is our roof. We should make the decision on it. But that's out of our hands, and we have to abide what the rules that have been made, and then, you know, accept what decision comes back in terms of, you know, what England's preference is for Sunday.
Everything else I said 10 p.m. in Barnard.
One of the bigger Wales-England games you've been part of, with both unbeaten, on for a clean sweep, things like that?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, before the tournament everyone was talking about the last game. You know, potentially the Ireland-Wales game, you know, could come down to a decider. You know, I was pretty bold in the start of the competition, saying that if we won the first game, we had a great chance of winning the tournament, and that was kind of that's the way I saw it. You know, it's the way it's kind of like I'm always the eternal optimist. My glass is always half full, and you've got to give your players and your staff and everyone that belief and confidence that, you know, we're capable of doing this. And so I have no apologies for coming out and saying those sorts of things and being prepared to be confident and to talk ourselves up. But this has become, you know, a really big game, not so much for the Six Nations. I think a big game for both of us in terms of building for the rest of the year and building for World Cup plans and preparations and for Japan. And I know comments were made, and Eddie made a comment about, then I'd made a comment in November about us being poles apart, and the comment wasn't poles apart in rugby. The comment was meant by, we were poles apart in terms of our planning and preparation for the 12 months, in terms of the journey we were going on, because they'd gone in the summer and had taken their best players. They were looking in the autumn and looking to build some confidence, and we were on a different path, and that's what I meant by we were poles apart. They're an absolute quality side. I think if you can imagine their strength and depth, I think their forward pack, none of their forward pack was the forward pack that started against us last year. So it's a completely different forward pack that we played against last year in terms of starting. And so that's how much strength and depth they have. And you know, we know it's going to be a great challenge. And like I said, we're really excited about where we are and having this opportunity to play at home against a team that's really on form at the moment. And like I said, you win this game on Saturday, I think it sets you up mentally as much as anything for building on for the remainder of the year.
Warren, what have you made of some reports that you're the favourite to succeed?
Yeah, just speculation. I think my name's been mentioned with half a dozen jobs, so I mean, my plan is to see out the rest of the year and then to see what you know, potentially is available.
Warren, you worked with Kyle Sinclair on the Lions tour. What was your assessment of him from that, and specifically his temperament for what could be a big occasion here? Yeah,
I mean, I think with Kyle, there's no doubt he's a very good player in terms of his scrummaging, his ball carrying and work rate, and there is a challenge sometimes with that temperament, you know, and I think he's aware of it, the other players are aware of it, and we've already seen in the Six Nations that he's been involved in a couple of incidents. So, you know, hopefully we don't get dragged into that on Saturday, and you know, as whether he, you know, emotionally, you know, he can be a bit of a time bomb, you know, and I think we're all aware of that. I'm not saying anything that people aren't aware of, but look, we won't be going out there trying to antagonise him or anything like that, because that's kind of not on our maker. We just got to go out there and play, and you know, and hopefully, you know, he goes out and has a good game and is able to keep his emotions in control, because that's a big challenge for him.
Final one, please.
Warren, Eddie also said this morning this is the biggest game of Wales' players' lives. Do you buy into that, or is he
no, he's taking the mick, isn't he? So he's talking about us. This is not This is a big game. It's not the biggest game we've played in, so it's only against England. So.
On that note, thank you.